have physical print copies because they're just a little too short to try and put in print. But he's reading from it. It's called The Circus Wagon. So here's Andrew. He's going to be reading after we're going to do a drawing for a prize, but it's not his book because we don't have it in print. Up for you.
I have some postcards around, and I can also give you one. You can get it in a number of different formats from the Damnation Books website. And I think it's also in Kindle and some other formats. The Circus Wagon.
Great title.
The old circus wagon had been parked in Grandma's backyard since I can recall. We visited her every summer in Sioux Falls, and each year I dreaded seeing the shape in the far corner of the yard, buried in tall grass and nestled in shadow under the giant willow tree. Though I played often in the mowed area nearby, I was 7 before I finally let my eyes steal a few glances. Just a few, but more than fear had before allowed. It would be another year before I approached the antique and noticed the detail of ornate framing, the faded paint, the hundreds of rusted staples, and another summer before I could bring myself close enough to touch it. When I did so, I recoiled immediately from the rough surface with an electric sting numbing my fingers, an ice cream headache, and a bitter taste in my mouth. I always played alone, for I coveted the long hours away from my sisters and the adults. I could no more ask about the wagon than I could talk to them about anything else. Everyone seemed to ignore the existence of this abandoned artifact until a family reunion when I convinced a cousin to inquire during an intimidating lull in conversation at the big table. We were promised the story after we cleaned our plates, though the watermelon and early bedtimes distracted family members of all ages. Later, over the sides of bunk beds, we relayed rumors to each other in the humid dark. Had Grandpa worked in the circus? No, the wagon was older than that, someone said. What was inside? Rats. Rats. A lion's skeleton? A blind old witch? No, hundreds of mosquitoes swarmed you at once if you stepped too close, and lightning bugs avoided that part of the yard. And this one time, Gary's dad, my uncle, he made me stay by the house while he went out to collect a dead cat by the wagon, and he took a garbage sack and he reached under the wheel not once, twice, once on each side of the wheel for 2 pieces, and by then our whispers had roused the adults, and we were told a final time by a hissing ant to get to sleep this instant. The summer before my 8th grade year, when she could no longer manage the stairs and 5 hours was much too long of a drive, we made plans to move my grandma to Lincoln. For 2 weeks we sorted through her belongings, furniture and keepsakes she wanted for the apartment, and all leftovers destined for the thrift store, auction, or trash. My sister, seemingly fearless after her first year of college, took an interest in the wagon and managed to open its door. It was the first time I saw the interior. Everyone came to look while I stayed back a few yards. It was so obvious to me that I said nothing. The wagon had simply let her. Grandma had turned it into clothes storage, it seemed. The inside piled with dusty shoes, unfolded dresses, and shirts. Mom didn't recognize the garments, and she asked Grandma about them. Her answers were short and senseless. They're always cutting through here on the way to the place. They like the sodas. And we all waited in the basement till it was over, you see. And on the radio they told us he'd gotten out, and they were looking for him. Grandma has Alzheimer's. These were the kind of vague responses that would become frequent for her later, no matter what happened, no matter what the question. The adults decided that the old wagon should be demolished, and Dad asked some of the neighbors to help. Sledgehammers glanced off its walls, and saws pinched in the wood, which broke off their metal teeth. Fire crawled playfully over the surface, grew tired, and dissipated, leaving a blackened but inexplicably intact skin. When they tried hauling the wagon away, 2 tow trucks snapped their cables and a third broken axle. Then they tried sealing the wagon after finding 4 dead dogs inside and too many children pawing like dogs themselves at the door, with a desperation that was more primal than curiosity. I have memories too of countless children, many of whom I did not recognize as neighbors, rolling in bloody wrestling matches on the brown grass. I remember a chaotic line of thousands, literally thousands of people waiting outside the wagon, demanding to see inside, to see its secrets. Was that day a dream? Were there more like it? They screamed and pushed and tore at each other, never harming us or actually gaining entry. The crowd blocked our view as the willow tree lashed at our eyes from above. My body was small, though I stood between the maelstrom and my family, who huddled by the house, calling me back. By the next morning, everything was quiet in the yard, and no one spoke about it, at least not to me. When we pulled out of Grandma's house for the last time, the circus wagon remained. Her house sold the next week, though for a few thousand less than the asking price.